Welcome to Bear Download at ChicagoTribune.com. I'm Rich Campbell along with Dan Wiederer, casual edition. It's a Victory Tuesday here at Hallis Hall.
Yeah, it's nice to be back in these comfortable chairs.
Yeah, in the midway here at Hallis Hall. Just heard from Mark Trestman, Dan, a minute ago. And also Kyle Long and Kyle Fuller came through, had a chance to talk to us. And the sense seems to be that while there's a lot to feel good about from the Bears' 28-20 comeback win over the 49ers, there still are some concerns going forward here. How they got in that 17-0 hole and what questions they have to answer looking ahead to Monday night's game against the Jets.
And I think a lot of this is just like a week ago. How do you process the result that you got on Sunday? And you want to make sure that this isn't fool's gold. Obviously, there's a lot to build on with the resolve they showed, with the fight they showed, with the composure they showed on the road to come back from 17 down and really rally and make some big plays to win that game. But you have to be aware to yourself. Look, Charles Tillman lost for the rest of the season. Now Kyle Fuller, as good as he played Sunday night, is in a heightened role. Your kick return game still not settled. We're in week 3 of the season here, and they still have no answers there. The running game didn't get going against the 49ers. There's answers needed there. So while there's a lot to feel good about, a lot to be positive about, you just have to make sure when they get back to practice on Thursday that they come with the right mindset and the idea that, hey, look, we got a lot to shore up so that we're not 1-2 and sort of riding that roller coaster again next week.
Right, and I think it was telling that Mark Trestman began his press conference this afternoon talking about special teams. It goes beyond the return problems they had. You have the block punt. They've had penalties in the return game. Mark Trestman said we're going to see some roster moves. Sounds like we've already had one with the Bears promoting Rashad Ross, a speedy return man who had a productive preseason with the Redskins. And so the Bears understand, I think, what they need to clean up. But you focus on some positives here. Mark Trestman said that the way the team stuck together and responded during an adverse first half and afterwards doesn't guarantee that it'll happen again, but it does give you some insight as to the fight and togetherness of this team.
Yeah, and it gives you some success that you can draw on when you get into situations again. You can say, hey, look, we were in this hole and we rallied out of it. I think Jay Cutler deserves plenty of credit for that win on Sunday night because that was the type of game with your offensive line beat up, with your top receivers beat up, with a big hole, with nothing going right on offense, 8 net yards in the first 6 possessions. That's the type of game in Jay Cutler's younger days where he comes completely unraveled and it goes haywire fast. He hung in there, completed 13 of 14 passes after halftime. Really a steadying influence. We asked it all last week. Could he be the reason they win? Could he steady this team under adversity? He did so and passed that test in San Francisco.
Yeah, and he had some help from the coaching staff. Mark Trestman talked about how they intentionally increased the tempo on offense, and Trestman also gave Cutler some option calls, some decisions to make at the line of scrimmage that could hopefully change things up on a 49ers defense that continued to mix its coverages throughout that entire period they had the lead, and it ended up working.
Yeah, and just to be clear, there's always such a thin line in this league, and we saw that with the Bears. Jay Cutler had 1 incompletion in the second half. You go back and watch it, it's a deep shot up the middle of the field to Josh Bellamy. And when you watch it again, and Mark Trestman mentioned this in his press conference today, it's probably a decision Jay wants back. He throws it into traffic. There's 2 49ers defenders there. It's almost intercepted. If that pass is intercepted and they lose, the narrative of this entire week is different than what we're talking about now. So it is that thin line you always got to be aware of, and it just takes little breaks here and there to change your season.
And that pass was not intercepted because the 2 49ers defenders collided. It didn't have anything to do with, Bellamy making a play on the ball. You're absolutely right. Was one way on the 3rd and 1 pass in the 4th quarter a week earlier against the Bills. Bears get it to go their way, and it's also because their defense finally started making plays. Trestman was extremely happy with the run defense, even though the stats show 4.8 yards per carry against. They were more disciplined, and he really was pleased by how they tackled.
Yeah, and he said that he remembers a stretch in September of 2013 when the defense was clicking, and really, not to joke around, but it's been a long time since you could feel really good about defensive performance coming out of a win. Bears had that, and they'll get another test in New York in the primetime lights again. Yeah,
it'll be interesting as the Bears get back to practice on Thursday. Who's available? Doesn't sound like Chris Conte's shoulder injury is particularly serious, but we'll have to monitor that. Jay Ratliff is in the concussion protocol, and Alshon Jeffrey apparently came through the game okay. No setbacks with that hamstring injury, so that all bodes well. All right. That'll do it for this edition of Bear Download. For Dan Wiederer, I'm Rich Campbell, and we'll see you next time.